Hey guys, tonight we're stepping aboard a pirate ship in the dead of night. The deck sways beneath your feet, slick with salt and rain, while thunder rolls over the open sea like a drumbeat from some ancient god. You can almost smell the storm, sharp and electric, laced with tar, sweat, and damp wood. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment with your location and what time it is where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The storm isn't the loudest thing, it's the creaking. The ship groans like an old animal. Every plank moves, sighing and flexing as if the sea itself is trying to pull the vessel apart. You stand near the mainmast, clutching a rope that's slick and cold, and you realize these men sleep here, on this floating chaos. There's no mattress, no pillow, just ropes, barrels, and a low hum of waves slamming into wood. When lightning flashes, you catch a glimpse of shapes huddled beneath tarps, faces hidden, limbs curled tight. Pirates trying to rest beneath the sky's wrath. Their bedroom isn't really below deck tonight. The lower holds are flooding. Rainwater seeps through every crack, dripping onto hammocks like a cruel rhythm. So they've dragged themselves up here, closer to the wind, to avoid drowning in their sleep. It's strange, watching how they find peace amid this violence. One man wraps his coat tighter, using a rope as a pillow. Another hums softly, eyes closed, as if pretending he's on land again. The wind tugs at his hair, and for a moment, you can almost believe he's dreaming. You crouch near a lantern, its light flickering orange against the storm. Shadows twist across the deck like ghosts. Somewhere a sailor laughs, hoarse, fearless, maybe a little mad, because laughter is defiance. If you can laugh in a storm, you're still alive. The captain, of course, doesn't sleep. He's a shadow near the helm, soaked to the bone but unmoved. His eyes track the horizon, though there's nothing to see but darkness. A leader's burden, sleepless nights, steady hands. A clap of thunder splits the air. A few men cross themselves, others spit into the sea to feed the storm gods. Old habits die hard. Historians still argue whether pirates truly believed in sea spirits, or whether it was just a way to stay sane out here, where the ocean could crush you in a heartbeat. Below deck, hammocks sway like cocoons. The lucky few who manage to rest rock gently with the waves, bodies moving in rhythm with the sea. One snore rises, another follows, like strange music between cannon racks. You reach down and touch a soaked rope. It's frayed, almost alive. The entire ship feels alive. And somehow, amid all this motion and chaos, there's an order. Every creak, every gust, has its place in the pirate's lullaby. You start to feel it too, the rhythm, the sway, the low, constant hum of water against wood. It's hypnotic. It pulls at your thoughts, slow and steady. The kind of sound that could almost lull you to sleep if only you trusted the sea not to devour you. It's said that during storms like this, pirates slept in shifts, or sometimes not at all. Those who dared to close their eyes did it knowing that one bad roll of the ship could send them tumbling onto the wet planks. And yet, they slept, because exhaustion was stronger than fear. You glance at the men again, their eyes closed, faces calm despite the thunder. They've made peace with the storm. Maybe that's what being a pirate really means. Not defying danger, but sleeping through it. The night stretches on. The storm doesn't stop, but you start to understand its rhythm, the way it becomes a kind of song. The rain, the wood, the wind, they all play together. And you, if you were there, might have started to hum along too. You step below deck now, ducking beneath low beams and hanging ropes. The air is thick, salt, wood, sweat, and something faintly sweet like rum-soaked linen. The ship rocks, but down here, the sway feels slower, more hypnotic. Dozens of hammocks swing in perfect rhythm, like cocoons suspended in midair. It's easy to forget that hammocks were once revolutionary. Before pirates adopted them, most sailors slept on the floor, if they slept at all. But what was cruel? Every crash of a wave meant bruises, splinters, and sometimes broken bones. Then came the hammock, a sailor's salvation, stolen from the wisdom of the Caribbean natives. The first pirates to try them must have looked ridiculous, twisting and spinning like drunks at a tavern. But they learned quickly that the trick wasn't to fight the motion, it was to surrender to it, to sway with the sea, to let the ocean rock you instead of ruin you. You brush your hand across a coarse hemp rope. It's damp but strong, knotted tight above your head. The canvas is patched and stained, each mark a story. Wine spilled during celebration, blood from a skirmish, salt crusted from endless storms. Every hammock here has history. A few men are already asleep, snoring softly. Others mutter in dreams. The ship creaks with them, an old companion that never quite sleeps. You notice that the hammocks aren't spaced evenly. They're stacked close, overlapping like rows of hanging bats. Privacy doesn't exist, but camaraderie does. Shoulders brush, boots bump, a murmur here, a laugh there. One sailor hums a lullaby, probably learned from his mother before he ever saw the sea. The melody is slow, broken, but oddly soothing. Another swings beside him, eyes closed, mouthing the words. You realize that sleep on a pirate ship isn't about silence. It's about rhythm. The rhythm of motion, voices, and memory. Historians still argue whether pirates truly cared for comfort or simply adapted to survive. But the hammock tells a story of quiet genius. It lifted them off the cold floor. It kept their bodies from rolling in the storm. And when the ship pitched violently, the hammock's cradle moved with the chaos. There's a beauty in that, a lesson, maybe. The strongest survive not by resisting the sea, but by flowing with it. A few pirates have made small modifications. One has stitched a wool blanket into the lining for warmth. Another has a trinket, a little charm carved from bone, tied to the rope above his head. A lucky talisman against bad dreams. You notice a detail few would think about. Each hammock has a small hollow space beneath it. Pirates store knives, coins, or a mug of rum there, close enough to reach if something went wrong. The sea is unpredictable. A sleeping pirate never really lets go. Lightning flashes through the small portholes, painting everything in quick bursts of silver. Then darkness again, broken only by lantern glow. In that dim light, the hammocks sway like the breath of the ship itself, slow, steady, almost like the ocean exhaling. You imagine yourself climbing into one, the fabric cold at first, then warm as your body settles. Your weight finds its balance, and soon you're floating, half in air, half in dream. You start to understand why they preferred this. You could sleep through anything in a hammock, even cannon fire, maybe. A story whispers through the crew about a storm off Hispaniola, when the deck flooded and every man below deck stayed in his hammock. The water sloshed beneath them like a shallow grave, but they stayed dry, swaying, laughing, pretending it was all fine. Because if you could laugh, you were still alive. And tonight, down here, that's enough. You wake before dawn, though the sun hasn't yet broken the horizon. The ship rocks harder than before, rising and falling in long, groaning waves. It's a strange kind of rhythm, half cradle, half threat. You clutch the edge of your hammock as it tilts steeply, then steadies again, like a heartbeat trying to find calm. Some pirates called this the sea's lullaby. Others cursed it. A few never got used to it at all. They'd wake with nausea, stumble to the deck, and throw up their courage into the ocean. But most learned to sway instead of shatter. The trick wasn't about strength, it was surrender. You can't fight the sea. She'll always win. So you breathe with her, rock with her, move as she moves. That's how pirates slept through storms, or through cannon fire, or through their own fear. You listen. The ship groans again. Somewhere above, ropes snap tight. A man curses softly. The ocean answers with another wave, slamming the hull. The sound vibrates through every plank, every rib of the ship. It's alive, always shifting, never still. One of the older sailors beside you, missing half his teeth, grins in the dim light. Don't fight it, He murmurs, "Let her rock you." Then he closes his eyes again, swinging peacefully like a pendulum. It's a lesson they all learn, sometimes the hard way. New recruits who resisted the sway often woke with bruises, tangled in their own hammocks. Some even fell out entirely when the ship lurched too hard. It's funny, in a cruel sort of way. Pirates could face a storm without blinking, but still lose a fight with gravity while asleep. Historians still argue whether pirate ships were truly worse than naval ones when it came to comfort. British naval hammocks, for instance, were inspected weekly. Tight knots, proper spacing, clean sheets. Pirate ones? Nobody checked. They were as wild and personal as the men themselves. You can picture it now. A sea of swinging shapes, each one a tiny world. Some men talk in their sleep. Others mutter names of lost loves. A few simply snore, deep, thunderous, completely unbothered. The sound of dozens of hammocks creaking together becomes its own ocean, a quiet counterpoint to the storm outside. You sway too, eyes half open. The lantern swings above you, its flame drawing small golden arcs through the dark. Every few seconds it flares brighter when the ship tips, casting momentary warmth over faces, scarred, tired, but calm. It's easy to imagine that this movement, this endless back and forth, isn't chaos at all. It's meditation. The sea teaching patience, one slow sway at a time. There's humor in it, too. One man jokes that the ocean is like a jealous wife, always trying to toss you out of bed. Another replies that at least she's warmer. The laughter ripples quietly through the dark. And then, silence again. Only the wind. Only the rhythm. The ship dips sharply, water slapping the side like an angry hand. You feel it pass through your bones, but don't panic anymore. The hammock absorbs the violence, transforming chaos into motion. That's what it was made for. That's what you were made for, too, eventually. Somewhere above deck, the watchman's voice drifts through the hatch. All's well. The words sound absurd. Nothing about this place is well. And yet, in a strange way, he's right. Because everyone who's still breathing, still swaying, still dreaming, well, they're the lucky ones. You close your eyes again, letting the motion carry you. The air smells of salt and smoke. The storm hums a slow, steady tune. And as you drift somewhere between waking and sleep, you finally understand the old sailor's words. Don't fight it. Sway. Don't shatter. The air below deck is heavier tonight. Salt, sweat, and iron blend into something metallic and thick. You descend the creaking ladder carefully, feeling the wooden rungs slick with condensation. The light grows dimmer until only the occasional lantern flickers, its glow licking across rows of dark, cold cannons. This is where most pirates slept, not in cabins or cozy bunks, but right here among the cannons. The gun deck, they called it. The smell of gunpowder and wet rope clings to everything. The hammocks hang directly above the weapons, swinging between barrels of iron that could crush a man if a rope snapped. You pause, realizing how little space there is. One wrong step, and you'd bump into another hammock, or worse, a loaded gun. But somehow, the pirates made it work. They had to. A few sailors are already asleep. The ship rolls, the hammocks sway, and shadows drift over faces that look peaceful in a place meant for war. It's strange, almost poetic, the instruments of destruction doubling as bedposts. When lightning strikes outside, the flashes reveal just how cramped it is. Ropes hang inches apart, hammocks nearly touching. Muskets rest in racks beside them. Cannonballs sit in piles like sleeping stones. There's nowhere to walk without ducking or weaving through the web of fabric and steel. You run your hand along one of the cannons. It's slick and cold. There's a dent near the base, probably from a past battle. Maybe even one fought by this same crew. A pirate nearby uses it as a makeshift shelf, his boots and rum flask resting on the iron muzzle. The storm outside growls again. Water seeps through cracks in the hull, dripping steadily onto the floor. The sound joins the rhythm of the ship's motion, a quiet percussion under the snores and murmurs. Pirates called this place the cradle of thunder. It was true in every sense. During combat, this deck would roar. Cannon fire, smoke, shouting. But when peace returned, or something like peace, this same space became their refuge. Their sleeping chamber, their fragile world of dreams. Somewhere above, the captain's voice cuts faintly through the boards. Hold steady. The crew below doesn't stir. They're too used to it, too tired. They've learned that sometimes the best way to survive a storm is to sleep through it. You crouch to see a pirate rocking slowly in his hammock, his tricorn hat pulled low over his eyes. He's got a pistol tied to his wrist with twine, just in case. Another has stuffed cloth between the cannon and his bed to stop it from banging in the night. Resourceful, primitive, human. Historians still debate how safe it really was. Some say the hammocks acted as shock absorbers, softening the ship's movements and protecting the men from injuries. Others argue it was madness to sleep so close to loaded artillery. But the pirates didn't care. Safety was a luxury for people who weren't outlaws. You sit for a moment, listening. The cannons creak softly as the ship leans. Hammocks sway like pendulums. Lantern light glows in golden halos through the smoke. The air hums with life, sleeping life, dreaming life. You imagine what they might dream of. Land, maybe. Women, gold, freedom. Or maybe just silence, something the sea never gives. One man talks in his sleep. Another mutters a curse. Somewhere, someone laughs, a low, exhausted chuckle. It's a sound of acceptance. This is home. This noise. This danger. This rhythm. A rat scurries past your boot, carrying a crumb from the galley. You don't flinch. It belongs here as much as anyone. Every pirate ship had them. Some even named them, treated them as mascots or omens. Another flash of lightning turns everything white for a heartbeat. The cannons gleam. The faces shine. The storm howls. Then darkness again. The pirates don't wake. They sway. They sleep. They trust the sea will keep them for one more night. You wake to the sound of dripping. At first, it's soft, like the ticking of a clock somewhere far away. Then another drop, and another, until the rhythm becomes unmistakable. Rainwater seeping through the deck above, gathering in fat droplets before falling onto the floorboards. The storm hasn't stopped. It's only grown angrier. The ocean outside is a beast, black and endless. You can hear it roar through the wood, pounding the hull again and again, like it's testing the ship's resolve. You step barefoot into a shallow puddle. It's freezing. The water seeps between your toes, and for a second, it feels alive, slithering, creeping. Some pirates swore the sea itself could crawl aboard during storms, inch by inch, searching for prey. A lantern swings wildly, throwing streaks of gold across the wet planks. The air smells of salt, smoke, and fear. And yet, no one panics. The crew has seen this before. They move like sleepwalkers, calm and methodical, patching leaks with rags, buckets, and bits of tar-soaked rope. One man mutters a curse at the sea, calling it the devil's wife. Another laughs as he wrings out his shirt. Pirates found humor in everything, because if they didn't, they'd go mad. The hammocks above you sway dangerously. Water drips from the beams, turning their canvas into damp cocoons. Still, the men cling to them, refusing to give up their fragile comfort. Sleep is sacred here, even in chaos. You watch as a younger sailor tries to rest amid the mess. He's curled tight, wrapped in a thin blanket that's already soaked through. His lips move silently, maybe praying, maybe dreaming. The lantern light catches the water beating on his face. It looks almost like tears. Historians still debate how pirates managed to endure such conditions without freezing or falling ill. Some suggest they layered wool and linen. Others say they used rum as their medicine, burning warmth from the inside out. It's a romantic image, but also a brutal one. Rum dulled pain, but it didn't stop fever. You spot a small fire flickering near the galley entrance. It shouldn't be there. Open flames were dangerous aboard wooden ships, but necessity often trumped rules. A handful of pirates huddle close, palms extended, soaking in a few stolen seconds of heat. The flames throw dancing reflections across their faces, carving warmth into the cold. You inch closer, feeling the air shift from damp chill to smoky comfort. One pirate notices you and grins, his teeth glinting in the firelight. "Best we've got, mate," he says, lifting a tin cup of steaming water. "Boiled rain. Vintage of the Atlantic." He laughs, and for a moment, so do you. The deck trembles. Another wave slams the ship, rattling every board. The fire flares, then settles again. One man hums a slow, haunting tune, a sea shanty about calm harbors and blue skies that none of them may ever see again. A wooden bucket tips over. Water spreads, shimmering like liquid silver. You realize how thin the line is between survival and surrender here. A single leak too large, a single wave too strong, and this whole world would vanish beneath the sea. But the pirates don't think about that. They've learned to live one wave at a time. You tilt your head back. Water drips from the ceiling onto your face. It's cold, briny, and real. And as the ship rocks, as the lanterns swing, as the storm rages, you understand something profound. To be a pirate wasn't to conquer the sea. It was to make peace with her moods, even the cruelest ones. Up above, thunder cracks, so close it feels like the sky itself split in half. A heartbeat later, silence. Just the dripping again. Just the rhythm. Just life, fragile and wet, holding on. You wake in the pale glow of dawn, though dawn means little at sea. The sky above the deck is a dull gray smear, heavy with clouds. The rain has softened into mist, the kind that clings to your eyelashes and wets your skin like invisible fingers. The storm has passed for now, but the air below deck is still cold. Not the kind of cold that bites, it seeps. It seeps into everything. Your clothes, your bones, your thoughts. And that's when you start to notice the blankets. Not the matching woolen ones you'd find in a Navy ship, but a pirate's kind. Mismatched, stolen, patched, and stitched from whatever the crew could scavenge. They call it the blanket code. It isn't written anywhere, but everyone knows it. If you find warmth, you share it. If your mate's soaked to the skin, you give him half your blanket. And if someone's blanket goes overboard, you don't ask, you just hand him yours. You see it in action now. A broad-shouldered sailor with frost-pink fingers drapes his own wool wrap over a shivering boy. The boy protests, but the man just shrugs. "You'll pay me back when we find gold," he says, grinning. They both know that day might never come. The blankets are an odd collection. Some striped, others faded, some embroidered with patterns that clearly didn't start their lives aboard a pirate ship. A few came from merchant vessels. Others were military issue, stolen from captured ships. One man's blanket, clearly meant for an officer, still bears the embroidered crest of the British crown. He's sleeping on royal wool now. You touch one hanging near you. It's coarse but surprisingly soft, smelling faintly of smoke and salt. Each thread holds a story. Historians still argue whether pirates were truly as chaotic as legend paints them, or if they had their own unspoken codes, rules born from necessity. This, you realize, is one of them. There's a superstition attached to these blankets, too. Never wash them at sea. The salt keeps the luck in. Wash it, and you wash your luck away. Superstition or not, it kept their hammocks smelling interesting. A pirate with a red beard and sunburned face stirs awake beside you. His blanket looks like it's been repaired a dozen times with mismatched cloth. "Best thing I ever stole," he mutters proudly, rubbing the fabric. "Worth more than gold in a gale." He's right. In a storm, warmth was life. Blankets were traded like currency, sometimes for food, sometimes for favors. One crewman might promise to take double watch in exchange for an extra layer. Others hoarded them, layering themselves like onions when the wind cut too deep. There's a quiet camaraderie here. No one pretends to be tough against the cold. Even the fiercest cutthroat tucks his blanket to his chin and sighs with contentment when he finds that perfect pocket of warmth. The galley cook passes through, carrying a steaming pot of something that smells vaguely like oatmeal and tar. He pours small portions into tin cups. The heat alone feels like mercy. A pirate takes a sip, winces, and laughs. "Could use more rum," he says. The cook grunts, "Could use more anything," and keeps walking. You wrap your arms around yourself, imagining how it would feel to sleep here night after night, trusting only a few threads and a bit of cloth to keep the sea's chill away. You might start to understand why they treated their blankets like sacred relics. Sometimes they'd hang them near lanterns to dry, though that meant risking singe marks, or worse, fire. Other times, they'd press them close to their bodies during work hours, letting body heat do the drying. The deck often looked like a strange laundry line of steaming wool and half-awake men humming sea shanties. And the funniest part? Those same rough pirates who could get a man without blinking would argue fiercely over whose blanket was thicker. "Yours is half air, mate. At least mine's not made of rat tails." A grin, a shove, a laugh. And then silence again as another cold breeze slipped through the hull. The blanket code wasn't written, but it bound them together. It wasn't just about warmth. It was about survival and something deeper. Maybe in a world that took everything from them, it was the one thing they could still give freely. As you climb back to the deck, dawn light breaks through the clouds, scattering silver across the sea. The wind smells clean now, the air open and forgiving. You close your eyes, remembering the soft wool and the laughter below deck. Warmth, it turns out, was the pirate's truest treasure. Sleep for pirates was never promised. It was rationed. You wake to the dull clang of the ship's bell. The sound cuts through the murmur of snoring and creaking wood like a blade. 4 bells, someone mutters. That means it's time to switch. Welcome to the Pirate Watch system. 4 hours on duty, 4 hours off. Endless rotation. No morning, no night. Just cycles of exhaustion. You climb to the deck, feeling your body sway with the ship's rhythm. The air above is icy, but at least it's fresh. A pale gray horizon stretches infinitely, the sun barely visible through the mist. Half the crew is awake, half asleep. Some are eating, some are mending sails. Others just stand there, eyes hollow, waiting for their next turn to collapse. The ocean doesn't care about time, so the pirates stop caring too. They live by bells, not hours. By light and storm, not sunrise and sunset. It's funny, though, historians still argue about how strict pirate watches really were. Naval ships followed rigid discipline. 6 watches per day, for hours each, run with military precision. But pirates? They were rebels, not soldiers. Some ships followed the same schedule, others made it up as they went. And if the captain was merciful or drunk, the rules got blurry. Still, the rhythm mattered. Without it, chaos would have sunk them faster than any cannonball. You watch as one group, pale and bleary-eyed, descends to rest while another climbs up to take their place. They move like ghosts, changing shifts in the afterlife. The sleepy ones strip off wet coats, kick off boots, and collapse into hammocks, still half standing. The awake ones pull scarves tight, muttering curses at the sky. It's an endless relay. For hours of freezing wind, rope burns, and spray in your face. 4 hours of sleep, if you're lucky. Then back again. One pirate jokes, "The sea don't sleep, so neither do we." His friend replies, but she never wakes either." They both laugh, though it's the tired kind of laugh that ends in a sigh. You notice how they count time differently. Not in days, but in storms. Not in nights, but in watches. "It's been 3 watches since the wind turned," someone says. 2 watches till dawn, says another. It's like living in a world where time itself rocks back and forth with the ship. A man named Finch, small and wiry, takes a sip of rum before heading below. "Keeps me warm," he says. Another replies, "Keeps you stupid." Finch shrugs. "Same thing, isn't it?" You descend again, back to the lower deck. The newly relieved crew is already asleep. Hammocks sway. Lanterns dim. You can tell by their breathing, they're gone in seconds. When you live by watches, you learn to fall asleep anywhere, anytime. No luxury of winding down. just collapse and drift. The ship rocks gently now. The storm has passed for good, at least for this cycle. But you know it'll be back. Storms always return. And so will the bells. It's strange to think how this life stretched on for years. No day or night. Just duty and rest. The body forgets how to tell time, but it learns something else instead. Endurance. Some sailors claimed that after long enough, they could wake seconds before the bell rang, as if their bones had learned the ship's rhythm. Others said it was a curse. You never truly rested again. You look around once more at the men dozing in their hammocks. Their faces are calm, almost childlike. They've surrendered to the rhythm. For hours on, for hours off, forever. The storm has faded into memory now. The sea hums softly beneath the hull, the waves rolling slow and steady, like deep breathing after a long cry. Most of the crew sleeps. The hammocks sway gently, each man cocooned in canvas, suspended between waking and dreaming. It's strange how pirates dreamed. Some said their dreams were full of gold and calm harbors. Others saw only the sea, endless, black, and whispering. A few never dreamed at all, too tired to imagine anything beyond their last watch. You lie in one of the hammocks now, listening to the quiet symphony of creaks and sighs. Somewhere, a sailor mutters in his sleep. His hand twitches like he's hauling rope in a dream. Another man laughs softly, maybe chasing phantom riches. Dreams, at sea, didn't belong to the dreamer alone. They leaked into the air, shared, absorbed, forgotten. By dawn, no one remembered who dreamed what. Historians still argue whether pirates, despite their brutal lives, clung to hope through their dreams. There's a record from 1718 of a captured sailor who claimed, "We all dreamed of land, even if we'd never see it again." Hope, it seems, was a habit they couldn't quit. The hammocks move like pendulums, the lanterns flicker, and you start to drift too. There's a warmth that comes, not from blankets or rum, but from rhythm. You sway, the sea sways, the world sways with you. A pirate nearby snores so loudly it almost feels like thunder, and yet it's oddly comforting. It reminds you that you're surrounded by the living, rough, flawed, alive. In a world where death could come any hour, that was a kind of peace. One pirate talks in his sleep. "Hold the line," he whispers. Maybe he's dreaming of battle, maybe of home. You wonder if he even remembers which is which anymore. Some dreams were darker. Men would wake screaming about shipwrecks or ghosts. One legend told of a phantom ship that drifted into pirate dreams, offering calm seas in exchange for their souls. Superstition? Probably. But when you live on the edge of the world, stories like that feel real. The lantern light softens. The wood creaks with age. The ship itself seems to breathe. You realize that in this strange, floating world, dreams are the only thing truly private, and even that is temporary. Tomorrow, they'll be replaced by the next storm, the next watch, the next cup of rum. You close your eyes. The sea hums like a lullaby, low and deep. The hammock sways you into a trance. And before you know it, you're dreaming too, of sunlight, land, and silence. The calm doesn't last long. It never does. You're woken by a sound that's more felt than heard. A low growl rolling through the hull. The air changes. It's thicker, heavier, charged with static. A moment later, thunder answers, booming across the sea like a war drum. The storm is back. But this time, something's different. There's no panic, no shouting, just motion. The pirates move in quiet coordination, as if they've done this dance 1,000 times before. Some tighten ropes. Others check barrels, knots, sails. The rhythm of work hums through the ship. Lanterns flicker in the darkness, glowing like tiny suns. You realize these lights aren't just for seeing, they're for sanity. They make the dark less infinite, the storm less monstrous. A pirate named Calder sets a lantern down beside his hammock before heading above deck. "Leave that burning," he says. The light keeps her calm. You ask who it is. "The sea," he grins. "She don't like darkness." Lightning flashes, bleaching everything white. For a heartbeat, the world is all fire and bone, then black again, except for the warm pools of lantern light scattered around the ship. Each one becomes a tiny island, a fragile refuge against the chaos outside. The rain begins its assault, pounding the deck overhead. Drips turn to streams. The lanterns sway, shadows stretching across faces and wood. In the flicker, the pirates look like paintings come to life, half men, half myth. You crouch beside one lantern and watch the flame tremble. It seems impossibly small against the roar of the sea. And yet it doesn't go out. It bends. It endures. Historians often write about the brutality of pirate life. Storms, battles, hunger. But they rarely mention the light. The small, persistent glow that made the darkness bearable. Some ships kept lanterns burning through entire nights, even when oil was scarce, believing it kept away bad spirits or mutiny. Another flash splits the sky. Thunder follows, shaking the ship. A few men cross themselves, others mutter prayers, some just smile at the madness of it all. One pirate leans close to the light, whispering as if it were a friend. "Stay lit," he murmurs, "just till morning." The lantern light flickers on his scarred face. You see peace there, a strange, fragile peace in defiance of everything. Outside, lightning paints the waves silver. You glimpse the captain on deck, rain pouring from his hat brim, shouting orders into the storm. The sea answers with another crash, but the ship holds steady. Below, the pirates sway in their hammocks, lulled by thunder. The light dances across their chests, warm and golden. Even the rats hide near the lanterns, tiny silhouettes huddled in comfort. It's beautiful in a wild, dangerous way. A world of storms and fire, and men too stubborn to surrender. And in the center of it all, a few trembling lanterns defying the dark. You climb the narrow steps to the captain's cabin, one hand gripping the slick railing. The storm still rages outside, but here, the sound changes, less chaos, more command. The cabin is small, but alive with movement. Charts flutter in the draft. The compass spins slightly from the ship's tilt, and a lantern swings above a table cluttered with maps, ink, and salt-stained paper. The captain sits alone at the desk, hunched over a chart. His coat is soaked, collar turned up, hat lying discarded beside him. A faint scar runs from his temple to his jaw, catching the lantern light like a silver thread. His eyes, sharp, sleepless, trace the inked lines of the Caribbean. He doesn't look up when you enter. He's listening, always listening, to the storm, to the timbers, to the creak that tells him the ship still lives. The rest of the crew sleeps, rocks, snores, dreams. But the captain? He doesn't get to dream. His world is measured in miles, knots, and decisions that can kill or save every man aboard. A small chest sits by the wall, half open, glinting with a handful of gold coins and trinkets, proof of victories past. But he doesn't look at them. The sea doesn't care how rich you are. He takes a slow sip of rum, grimaces, then sets the cup down. His hands are rough, nails blackened by rope and salt. You can see the fatigue in his shoulders, but there's something harder beneath it. A gust of wind howls through the cracks, rattling the door. The lantern sways, shadows stretching long and skeletal. He doesn't flinch. Storm's passing, he murmurs. You're not sure if he's talking to you or to the sea. Historians still argue about pirate captains, whether they were tyrants or democrats. The truth is somewhere in between. A good captain ruled with both fear and fairness. A bad one didn't last long. Mutiny was the sea's version of justice. This one seems like the good kind, the kind who earned loyalty, not demanded it. On his wall hangs a faded flag, stitched with a skull and crossed swords. Not menacing, just honest. A reminder of what they were and what they risked every day. He finally looks up. You ever notice how the sea sounds different when it forgives you? You shake your head. He smiles faintly, eyes distant. You'll hear it one day. You realize he hasn't slept in who knows how long. Maybe days, maybe weeks. There's always something, a storm, a pursuit, a mutiny, a decision that can't wait. Sleep is for the crew. Command is its own kind of insomnia. He moves to the window. Outside, lightning flashes, revealing the dark waves churning below. The ship is still upright, still breathing. He nods once, satisfied. Good girl, he whispers to the vessel. It's strange. He talks to the ship as if she's alive. Maybe she is. Maybe after years together, she's become part of him. Every creak, every shift in the wind. He feels it like pain in a phantom limb. A letter sits open on the table. The ink has bled in the damp air, but a few words are still legible. To my brother, should I not return? You stop reading. Some things aren't meant to be finished. He rolls the map closed and ties it with twine. They'll rest tonight, he says softly. That's enough. Then he picks up the lantern, checks the flame, and steadies it with his hand. The reflection glows in his eyes. Tired, defiant, human. You understand now. The captain never sleeps because someone must stay awake to keep the darkness from swallowing them all. The storm has thinned into drizzle now. Outside, the wind hums instead of howls, and the sea exhales slow ripples instead of roaring. Below deck, the pirates wake to the smell of smoke, but the good kind. The kind that promises warmth, not disaster. You follow the scent to the galley. It's the heart of the ship, though calling it a kitchen would be generous. The space is cramped, blackened by soot, and forever slick with salt water and grease. Pots hang from hooks that sway with the motion of the sea. A small iron stove squats at the center, bolted to the floor like a stubborn old dog that refuses to move. A pirate cook, broad, bare-armed, and missing half an eyebrow, leans over the fire. The flickering flame paints his face in gold and orange. He stirs something thick and gray in a dented pot, humming a tune that sounds suspiciously like a funeral march. Breakfast, he says, without looking up. The word sounds heroic. Around him, a few crewmen crowd close, hands outstretched toward the warmth. The galley is the only place aboard where the air feels alive, where the wet chill gives way to the comfort of heat and smoke. You watch steam rise and curl like lazy ghosts. The smell is strange, part salt pork, part tar, part hope. The cook ladles portions into tin bowls. Don't ask what's in it, he warns. Someone does anyway. He smirks. It's soup, mate. That's all you need to know. The pirates eat in silence, slurping gratefully. They don't care what's in it. They care that it's warm. A small miracle in a world of cold. Historians still argue about how pirates manage fires aboard wooden ships. Some say they used brick-lined fireboxes. Others claim iron pots of glowing coals, carefully covered when the ship rocked too hard. Whatever the method, it was dangerous. One spark in the wrong direction, and the entire vessel could become a floating pyre. But warmth was worth the risk. The cook knew that better than anyone. His fire was his pride, his weapon against the sea's endless chill. He stokes the coals with a poker, careful but confident. You treat the fire like a woman, he says to no one in particular. Gentle hands, or she'll burn you. The pirates laugh, their voices echoing through the dark beams. One of them, a thin man with shaking fingers, holds his hands so close to the flame they almost touch it. He sighs. Feels like land. You realize that for men who live between storms, the fire is more than heat, it's memory. It smells like safety, like the earth, like home. On a shelf, mugs rattle softly with each tilt of the ship. The cook grabs one, fills it with something darker than tea, and passes it to you. The liquid burns your throat, sweet and bitter all at once. Rum and boiled rainwater. Pirate coffee. For a few moments, time slows. The sea can rage, the sails can tear, but here in the galley, life is simple. Flame, food, warmth, and the faint laughter of men who know they've survived another night. A drop of rain seeps through a crack in the ceiling and hisses on the stove. The cook glares upward. Don't you dare, he mutters at the sky. The crew chuckles. The flame steadies. The warmth lingers. And for the first time in days, the ship feels alive. Not fighting, not fleeing but simply living. Rain. Again. It's as if the sea can't stand to see the crew dry for more than a few hours. You wake to the sound of it hammering the deck, sliding down the ropes, sneaking through every crack and joint. The air feels heavier, every breath thick with damp salt. The hammocks drip slowly, rhythmically, like a leaking clock that measures misery instead of time. You sit up and feel the chill crawl instantly through your shirt. Everything is wet. Your boots, your blanket, even your thoughts. There's no escaping it on a pirate ship. The ocean doesn't just surround you. It finds ways to enter. Men curse quietly as they wring out sleeves and coats. One pours water from his boot as if it were a cup. Another just stares at the drops falling from his hat brim, too tired to fight them anymore. They say pirates feared the cold more than the cannon. A cannonball could kill you fast. Cold took its time. Some try to fight it. You see a few rubbing their arms briskly, muttering oaths, try to summon warmth through willpower alone. Others sip from flasks, swearing that rum burns cold from the inside out. It doesn't. It only tricks you for a while. The clever ones improvise. One sailor ties rags around his feet. Poor man's socks. Another layers two shirts, one over the other, like armor. It's never enough. Historians still debate how pirates avoided hypothermia in the cold Atlantic. The truth is, many didn't. They endured it because there was no other choice. You can't light a fire when the wind wants to eat it. You can't dry your clothes when even the air is made of water. The smell down here is something between brine and despair. Wet wool, damp rope, mold beginning to bloom in the corners. Yet somehow there's laughter. A man jokes, "We're fish now, lads. Might as well start growing fins." Someone else croaks back, "Aye, but at least we don't pay rent." They laugh, teeth chattering. The sound is defiant and beautiful in its way. You move toward the galley, hoping for warmth, but even the coals are weak today. The cook mutters to himself, feeding scraps of rope and splinters into the stove just to keep the flame breathing. The smoke smells like salt and desperation. A young pirate, barely more than a boy, tries to hang his shirt near the fire. It's hopeless. The air itself is wet. He glances up at you. Do we ever get used to this? You hesitate. Then you shake your head. The ship rolls again, and cold water sloshes across the floor. Everyone lifts their feet in unison, perfectly timed. A miserable ballet they've all learned by instinct. One pirate hums softly, a tune so slow it feels like it's sinking. It's a lullaby about the sun, of all things. No one's seen it for days, maybe weeks. You can feel it now, the deep, bone-deep weariness that only endless damp can cause. Every movement aches. Every breath feels heavier. Still, they endure. Because pirates always endure. Not out of courage, but because the sea doesn't give them permission to stop. By the time night comes, the rain has softened into mist again. The deck glistens like glass under the lantern light. A few men sleep half-sitting, arms crossed tight, their breath visible in the cold air. They don't look heroic. They look human, fragile, soaked, shivering, and alive. The sea spares no one, but somehow it keeps them all moving. And in that movement, endless, exhausting, eternal, there's survival. It happens without warning. 1 second, you're asleep, warm, swaying, half dreaming of sunlit shores. The next, you're falling. Your body slams onto the deck, the air punched from your lungs. The ship groans. Men shout. The broken rope swings above like a mocking pendulum. You lie there for a moment, stunned, listening to the echo of laughter ripple through the darkness. "Hammocks had enough of ye," someone calls, voice thick with amusement. You grin, even through the ache. Because on a pirate ship, you either laugh or you curse, and laughter's cheaper. The deck smells of sweat, tar, and salt. Your blankets soaked again, the rope frayed at the ends. It wasn't neglect that broke it. Ropes just die. Everything on a ship does, slowly, quietly, and at the worst possible time. Around you, others stir, chuckling from their hammocks. "You all right, mate?" one asks. You nod. "Good." Now, keep it down. Some of us are trying to die in our sleep, not from laughter. You haul yourself up, rubbing your back. The storm's gone now, but the ship still rocks with the memory of it. Lanterns swing, and the shadows seem to sway with them. Like the ship itself is teasing you. You gather the remains of your hammock, twisting the rope between your fingers. The fibers are stiff, salt-eaten. You think of how many nights it held you, how many dreams it cradled. Strange to feel affection for a piece of rope. You tie it back as best you can. It won't hold forever, but nothing ever does here. That's the pirate's secret. Everything breaks eventually. Hammocks, ropes, bones, hearts. The trick is learning how to tie them back together before morning. A pirate across from you, older and missing 2 teeth, points to his own hammock. It's been mended so many times it looks more patched than cloth. She's ugly, he says proudly, but she holds. You nod, smiling. There's a kind of poetry in that. Historians rarely mention how fragile pirate life was, not just the danger from enemies, but from a ship itself. A frayed rope or rotten beam could be as deadly as a blade. They lived surrounded by things that could kill them quietly, slowly, without drama. And yet they stayed. They fixed, patched, and laughed through it. Later that night, another rope snaps, a sound like a gunshot in the quiet. A pirate curses, landing on the floor with a thud that shakes the boards. The men burst into laughter again. You and Gravity got some kind of romance going? Someone jeers. Even a victim laughs, rubbing his shoulder. At least the floor is dry tonight. The laughter lasts for a while, warm and contagious. For a few minutes, the ship doesn't feel like a coffin of salt and darkness. It feels like home. When silence returns, you lie back in your half-fixed hammock, staring up at the wooden beams. They creak softly, tired but holding. You think of all the things that could break before dawn, and all the ways the crew will patch them again. And somehow, that feels enough. Night again. The storm has faded to a whisper, the rain traded for fog. The sea glows faintly under a sliver of moonlight, and for the first time in days, the air feels still. Almost gentle. You're below deck, surrounded by snores and half-muttered dreams. The lanterns hang low, their flames weak but steady. The air is thick with the scent of rum, wood, and sweat. Yet something different hums beneath the quiet. Companionship. You notice it everywhere. 2 pirates share a blanket. Another tells a story in hushed tones, voice so low it blends with the creaking of the ship. A pair of men sit cross-legged near the galley fire, mending a torn coat, the needle glinting each time the flame flickers. No one here calls it friendship. That word sounds too soft, too landborn. But that's what it is. Out here, trust isn't a choice. It's the only thing that keeps you breathing. You remember the first time you boarded, how everyone looked like strangers, loud, filthy, dangerous. Now they're family. A strange, broken, sea-tossed family. You fight together. You freeze together. You laugh together when nothing's funny, because laughter is all that's left. A few men start humming a slow tune, not quite a song, just sound. It spreads quietly, until the whole lower deck feels like it's vibrating with it. Not music exactly, more like heartbeat. Even the sea seems to pause and listen. Historians like to call pirates savages, but they rarely talk about this, the loyalty that ran deeper than law. Crews shared everything. Food, blankets, wounds, even punishments. No one ate if another went hungry. No one drank alone unless they wanted to. You watch as one pirate passes his flask to another who's shivering. No words exchanged, just a nod, a silent understanding that doesn't need translation. Someone nearby starts talking softly about home, about a sister he hasn't seen in years, about a harbor that might not even exist anymore. The others listen without interrupting. No one mocks him. They all know what it means to miss something they can't return to. The lantern flickers. The ship rocks gently. And in the glow, you see their faces, tough, scarred, weathered, but softened by exhaustion and something gentler. Not all warmth comes from fire. Sometimes it's from the nearness of another heartbeat. A young pirate, barely old enough to shave, curls in his hammock. The man beside him adjusts the rope so it won't twist too far. Simple gesture, quiet care. Above deck, thunder grumbles in the distance, far away now. The storm's voice softened with age. The pirates don't stir. They've built their own kind of peace here, in the dark, in each other's company. You close your eyes and breathe with them. The ship breathes too, and for once, the world feels almost safe. It begins with scratching, soft at first like nails on wood, then faster, closer. You open your eyes to find movement in the dark, quick, darting, alive. Rats, the true rulers of the ship. They skitter across the beams, tails like thin ropes, eyes glinting in the lantern light. You can hear them everywhere, inside barrels, under hammocks, even above your head. Some pirates hiss at them, others toss crumbs. Most just ignore them, because on a ship like this, you learn early. The sea has its own company, and not all of it human. You swing your legs out of the hammock and land barefoot on cold wood. Something moves beneath your heel. You freeze, then sigh. Another rat. It darts away, offended. A pirate nearby laughs. You'll never win, mate. They pay no rent, and they eat better than we do. He's right. The rats find everything, grain, crumbs, candle wax, even soap. But rats aren't the only visitors. Fleas bite at ankles. Lice crawl through collars. Sometimes bedbugs make a home in the hammocks themselves. A whole miniature civilization thriving right beside you. The crew fights back in creative ways. One man rubs his skin with vinegar. Another smokes his clothes over the galley fire. Someone swears garlic keeps the fleas away, though it mostly keeps his shipmates at a distance. Historians note that pirate ships were floating ecosystems, each one carrying hundreds of stowaways. Fleas, flies, beetles, and rats. Constant, unwanted passengers. Yet in their own strange way, they were part of the rhythm too. A few pirates even named them. Old Tom, says one man, pointing to a fat gray, rat-chewing rope. Been with me since Barbados. He grins like he's talking about a friend. Maybe he is. You can't help but marvel at the balance of it all. The humans fight to stay alive. The vermin thrive without effort. It's a small reminder that nature doesn't take sides. It just adapts. Later that night, as the ship rocks gently, the scratching fades in a background noise. You almost miss it when it's gone. The silence feels strange. Empty. You drift towards sleep, half expecting to feel something scurry over your blanket. It doesn't come. Instead, a faint squeak sounds in the distance, almost comforting in its persistence. Life aboard a pirate ship was never clean, but maybe that's what made it real. Every bite, every itch, every flicker of motion in the shadows was proof that something was still alive. You smile in the dark. Sleep tight, someone mutters nearby, and another voice answers, laughing softly, don't let the rats bite. The sea had its secrets, and among them were the women who sailed it. You might think there were none, that pirates were all rough men with louder voices than manners. But that's only half the truth. There were women here, too, hidden disguise defiant. Sometimes they dressed as men, binding their chests, speaking in lower tones, answering to borrowed names. Sometimes everyone knew, but no one said a word. A ship was its own world, and what happened at sea stayed with the tide. You notice one now, sitting by the lower mast as the lantern flickers. Her hair is cut unevenly, her shirt loose, her face shadowed by a tricorn hat too large for her head. She sharpens a knife with calm precision. Her movements are economical, deliberate. There's strength in the quiet. No one dares bother her. Respect, perhaps, or superstition. Sailors were full of them. Women on ships were said to bring bad luck. Yet, when storms passed without a soul lost, some began to whisper the opposite. Maybe the sea liked balance. She catches you staring and smiles slightly. Never seen a woman aboard before? You shake your head. Then you haven't looked close enough. The air down here feels different when she speaks, steady, unhurried. The crew listens without pretending not to. She doesn't bark orders, yet somehow everyone moves when she does. Authority without noise. Historians still argue over how many women sailed during the golden age of piracy. And Bonnie, Mary Red, those names survive in ink. But for every famous one, there were a dozen more lost to the waves, their stories carried only by rumor. You wonder how they managed sleep in such a world. Always guarding the secret, always watching. She once slept behind barrels, a blanket pulled tight around her shoulders, a dagger in her hand. You learn to rest with one eye open, she says, and to wake before anyone else. Now, the crew trust her. She's earned it. One night fight, one storm, one victory at a time. The men don't question her place anymore. The sea has a way of stripping everything down to what you can do, not who you are. The lantern sways, throwing golden light across her face. You see fatigue there, but also pride. Some say women bring luck, she murmurs. But luck's just what you make before dawn. Outside, thunder murmurs distantly. The ship creaks, steady and alive. You glance around the cabin. Men asleep, the woman sharpening her blade, the sea whispering against the hull. For a moment, it feels timeless, like all of them, man or woman, are simply passengers of the same relentless tide. You think of her last words before she finally closes her eyes. I didn't come to prove I could live at sea. I came because land never let me. And with that, she sleeps, knife in hand, free. The sea has rules, and not all of them are written in ink. Some live only in whispers, pass from sailor to sailor, through rum breath and nervous laughter. You hear them at night, when the ship is still and the waves murmur softly against the hull. Superstitions, the secret language of fear. No whistling in your hammock, it calls the wind. No sleeping with boots on, it invites death to take you quickly. Never dream of calm seas, for it means a storm is coming. It sounds foolish on land. Out here, it feels like survival. A pirate named Briggs refuses to sleep until the lantern flame steadies. If it flickers, he says, it means someone's soul is climbing out. Another insists on tucking a coin under his pillow to pay the ferryman should he never wake. And every night, before closing their eyes, at least one man murmurs to the sea, "Let me rise with the sun." Historians write about pirate codes and democracy, but they rarely mention the quiet religion of fear that kept the crew sane. The sea was too big, too unpredictable, too alive to face without myth. A man can fight another man, but the ocean? The only way to challenge her was through ritual. You sit in your hammock, watching the shadows twist with the lantern light. The air smells of salt and wax. The ship creaks, and the sound feels like words you can almost understand. Some say ships have spirits of their own, souls born from wood and wind. If that's true, then every groan you hear might just be your dreaming too. One pirate sleeps with his hand on his pistol. Another hides a lock of his lover's hair in a pouch around his neck. One man swears that a rat climbing into your hammock means good luck, so long as it doesn't stay. Superstition fills the silence like music. It gives meaning to every drip of water, every gust of wind, every strange shape in the dark. You find yourself whispering a small prayer too. Not because you believe, but because it feels wrong not to. The sea listens. She always does. A single wave slaps the hull, and the sound echoes like a heartbeat. The lantern flickers once, twice, then steadies. Briggs exhales softly. "All right," he mutters, lying back. She's calm now. The rest follow his lead, drifting off one by one. The ship breathes with them. Wood, wind, and superstition, all tangled together in the quiet rhythm of sleep. You close your eyes, unsure if it's faith or fear that comforts you most. You wake to silence, the kind that feels heavier than noise. No thunder, no wind, only the slow sigh of waves brushing against the hull. Morning has come. The air smells of salt and smoke, but also something softer, renewal. You climb to the deck, squinting as sunlight stabs through the thinning mist. The sea stretches out like a wrinkled mirror, gold where the light touches it, steel where it doesn't. The ship looks wounded, sails torn, ropes frayed, barrels knocked loose. Yet she's still afloat, proud and breathing. The storm tried to break her. It failed. You see the crew scattered about, blinking at the light like men reborn. Some lean on the railings, spitting seawater and laughter in equal measure. Others slump in silence, eyes half closed, their faces pale with exhaustion but peaceful. The cook hauls a bucket of rainwater to scrub the deck, muttering about Neptune's mess. A few join him, swabbing the planks in lazy rhythm. Even chores feel sacred this morning, proof that there's still work to be done, still a tomorrow. Historians say pirates celebrated survival as much as victory. They were right. Every morning after a storm felt like stolen treasure. Someone pulls out a battered fiddle. The sound is rough, half-tuned, but it dances through the air like sunlight on water. The crew claps weakly, the beat uneven but full of life. A few sway with it, half laughing, half swaying in rhythm with the sea. You lean against the railing, the wood warm beneath your palms. Gulls circle overhead, crying out over the waves. For days you've seen only gray and black, but now color. Blue sky, green water, golden light. The world feels awake again. One pirate dips a rag into the ocean and wipes his face clean. Feels like being born again, he says, smiling with cracked lips. Another replies, "Aye," and curse to live it all again. They laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that carries gratitude in its bones. You look down at the ship's reflection, trembling on the water. Every plank, every rope, every scar tells a story of survival. She creaks softly, proud, alive. The captain steps from his cabin, eyes shadowed but clear. He scans the horizon, nods once, and says, "We're still here." Simple words, but they hit deeper than gold ever could. You breathe in the sunlight, the salt, the sound of laughter rising with the tide. And in that moment, you understand the quiet religion of sailors. Survive the night. Earn the dawn. By now, you've seen enough to know the stories lied. Not the little lies, the grand ones. The legends that painted pirates as swaggering kings of the sea, sleeping on gold and silk, rum in one hand and glory in the other. The truth? They slept in wet hammocks between cannons. They shivered more than they sang. You've lived it now. The smell of damp rope, the burn of salt on skin, the aching 4-hour watches. And still, the myth persists, because people prefer romance to reality. You remember the ballads from taverns ashore. Bold Captain Drake, the Devil's Daughter, the Gentleman of Fortune. Each one polished the grime until it gleamed. But if any of those singers had spent a single night on this ship, they'd trade their rhymes for dry clothes. Historians, too, still argue about which parts of pirate life were truth and which were theater. Did they bury treasure? Rarely. Did they share plunder equally? Sometimes. Did they wear fine coats and gold earrings? Yes, but they slept in the same filth as everyone else. And yet, the myths aren't all lies. You've seen the courage that legends can't exaggerate. The laughter in storms, the loyalty in the dark, the pride in survival. Maybe that's the real gold no one can steal. The captain steps beside you on deck. The morning light catches his weathered face. "Funny," he says, "how land folk think we live for gold." You glance at him, don't you? He shakes his head. Gold buys a drink. Freedom buys a life. Below deck, the crew laughs over breakfast. Someone tells a story about fighting sea monsters the size of ships. The others cheer him on, adding details with every retelling. Fangs, glowing eyes, exploding barrels. The story grows ridiculous, but no one minds. The sea may not need monsters, but men do. You realize that truth and myth aren't enemies here. They're crewmates. The myth keeps the truth bearable. Because if you admitted what pirate life really was, cold, hungry, endless, you might lose your mind. But if you tell it like an adventure, you survive it. You close your eyes and hear it all again. The thunder, the laughter, the heartbeat of the ship. The world above the waves may never understand. But out here, under this sun, among these men, the myth is the truth, just told through salt and dream. The sea is quiet now, the kind of quiet that feels infinite, soft, steady, endless. The waves roll like breathing, slow and deep, their crests tipped with silver under the moon. The storm is memory. The thunder gone. Only the rhythm remains. You walk the deck one last time. Lanterns sway lazily in the warm breeze. The crew sleeps below, finally, deeply. The ship creaks with a tired grace, as if sighing after a long confession. You pause near the railing. The wood beneath your hands is smooth and cool. The horizon glows faintly with starlight. Somewhere out there, the sea and the sky become one, indistinguishable. And for the first time in what feels like forever, there is peace. This, you realize, is the true reward of a pirate's life. Not gold, not rum, not even freedom. It's stillness, the rare, delicate silence that follows chaos. You close your eyes and listen. The soft splash of water against the hull. The slow rocking of hammocks below. A distant snore. A sigh. The ocean's lullaby. You think about everything the ship has endured. Storms, hunger, fear, laughter, loss. Every scar in its wood tells a story. Every rope hums with memory. And yet it floats. Always forward. Always toward the next dawn. Historians write about battles and treasure, but not about this. Not about the nights when the sea glows like glass and time itself feels suspended. Not about the comfort of survival, the strange beauty of exhaustion, the gratitude that comes with every sunrise. Below deck, someone mumbles in their sleep, a name, maybe, or prayer. You smile, because prayers and dreams sound the same out here. Both are just whispers hoping to be heard. The wind softens even more. The sails barely stir. You lean on the railing and watch as the stars scatter across the water, like tiny lanterns dropped by the heavens. It's hard to imagine that just a few days ago, this same sea tried to swallow you whole. But that's what she does, tests, teaches, forgives. The captain stands at the far end of the deck, silhouetted against the moon. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His silence is steady anchored. You nod to him once, and he nods back. No words, just understanding. You breathe in. Salt, wind, sleep. The sound of the ocean fades into a heartbeat. Yours, the ship's, the world's. You can almost fall asleep standing here, eyes open, body rocking with the waves. The stars blur. The lanterns flicker. The sea hums. And you let go of storms, of myths, of everything. For tonight, you are weightless. The ocean holds you, and you drift, slowly, quietly, endlessly, into calm waters. And so, as the lantern light fades and the sea hums its final lullaby, you feel your breath slow to match the tide. You've sailed through storms, through hunger and laughter, through darkness and dawn. You've learned how pirates truly lived, not as monsters, but as men who found peace in motion. The ship drifts on, eternal and quiet, a heartbeat on the horizon. And maybe, somewhere in your own sleep tonight, you'll hear it too, the soft rhythm of waves against wood, reminding you that even in chaos, calm always returns. Sweet dreams.